Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
I am that dude, Bodkins. Patty to patty. It's ridiculous. No way. There's nobody else out there. He's your guy. Give a big round of applause for the one and only Bodkins Show. I'm going to repeat that again, folks. I didn't stutter. Welcome to the Bodkins Show. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another great episode of the Bodkins Show. I am your host, of course, Bodkins. Man, it has been an eventful day, a fun day. It's been a good weekend. If you missed it this morning on the LTS show, please check that out at 8 a.m. It was this morning, but please check it out. Later. We talked a little football. We talked a little baseball. We talked a little bit of everything this morning. It was a good show. So please check that out. It's just our normal Sunday hour-long show. Then we had a good show on Off the Rails. Please check that out here on the Let's Talk Sports Network. It was a nice little family, Larison family reunion. If you haven't really checked out that show, Off the Rails, it's a strictly football show. We do talk a little fantasy on there, but it's one of my favorite shows. Ryan Larison does a great job hosting it, but a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. So please check that out. But tonight, you know what it is. It's our Sunday sit-down special where we always got a little special guest, a little interview style. We're going to be talking a little fighting, folks. You guys know I'm a big UFC fight guy. Love talking fights. Really. So we had some interesting last week, last night, 2 weeks ago, we just had the pay-per-view. In 2 weeks, we got another huge pay-per-view. So we're going to talk a little bit of that stuff, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I don't want to keep our guest waiting any longer. Welcome to the show for the very first time, Timmy B, from host of Fight Insight podcast.
I'm in here. I finally made it. I made it to the Bodkins Show, baby.
Hey, thanks, Timmy. I appreciate it.
Hit the big time.
Hey, no, man. I've seen your numbers. You're absolutely crushing it on Fight Insight podcast. So let's start there. First of all, how'd the show get started, and why UFC? Do you guys just cover UFC or all MMA or
all combat sports, but focusing on MMA, but not just UFC. So ONE FC, Bellator, PFL if I have to. Muay Thai, LFA, lion fight, whatever. We'll do anything. Any guest that will grace us with their presence, we will fully appreciate that. We had a combat jiu-jitsu guy on.
Nice.
That sport is so stupid. That is, you know what that is, right? Combat jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
So right when it started, I'll get to the question in a sec, but I'll just let you know. Right when it started, combat jiu-jitsu, UFC Fight Pass would show these promos of this guy who in combat jiu-jitsu is pouring blood. Like he's got like the Ric Flair, just blood everywhere, right? And I was like, I need that guy on the show. And so we got him, and his name's Michael Courier. He's a kick-ass jiu-jitsu dude. And he just did that because he's like, well, shit, I'll do it. But he like travels the world putting on jiu-jitsu seminars. He's the coolest dude, an amazing guy out of Fountain Hills, Arizona. And had him on the show. But like that sport is so ridiculous, man. You just have a guy in guard, and then the guy just starts open palm smashing you to the face. Like it's just ridiculous. Like, anyways, how did I start the show? So I've been a martial artist myself for, I guess, most of my life. I guess started in university. I took Filipino martial arts, or at the time I thought it was just Jeet Kune Do, which is the Bruce Lee martial art. A lot of like flowy stuff,
Yeah.
And but at the same time, my guy who looked exactly like John Kreese from Karate Kid. Okay, I thought it was him, to be fair. Or if you know UFC 1, Keith Hackney.
Yeah.
Like, it was like this tough, grizzled dude with a mullet. And he would take you to class, and we'd be doing drills. And, like, if you did something wrong, he would, like, put a nerve hold on you. You'd be on the ground. You'd be begging for your life. Like, it was hardcore, and it was amazing. It got me so hooked. But at the same time, we were also doing eskrima, like the stick fighting. So if you read comics, Nightwing, right? Nightwing uses the two sticks, right?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
He's doing eskrima, and then we were doing knife fighting. And so that's then I realized that's Filipino martial arts anyway. So do that. throughout university, kind of stopped a little bit, and then ended up picking it up at a martial arts gym where I live. I'm just outside Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and started training there. It was mostly a Muay Thai gym and a boxing gym, and I was doing that, but they had an MMA class, and I loved that. My coach was amazing. He was the same kind of dude as my old martial arts teacher, like really tough on you. Like nobody wanted to take the class. It was so weird. Like I joined there and I was like, well, yeah, I want to do MMA. I watch it on TV. Like shit, let's do this.
Yeah.
And then, so there'd be all the dudes that would take Muay Thai. Then there's a whole bunch of guys taking boxing class. There'd be a whole bunch of guys taking jiu-jitsu, but no one would ever do the MMA class. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you guys do it? Come to find out, it's because the teacher was such a hard ass. Like he would literally just at every class, he'd just go, all right, let's spar. And you'd be like, I've been in class for like 2 weeks. Like, what's going on? And he's like pounding the crap out of you, like, and he was amazing. I'm in the change room one day, and I'm like bloodied and bruised, and I'm dying. And this other guy walks into the change room. He's like, oh, good class today, Timmy. And I was like, yeah, thanks, man. And I go, man, this dude is tough. The coach is tough. And he goes, yeah, man. I've been with Sean ever since he was in the UFC. And I was like, what?
That's why it's so tough.
I was like, who's our coach? Like, I don't even know. You know what I mean? Like, I knew it was like Sean. I don't know anything else. He's like, it's Sean Pearson, man. And I run home and I'm like, Sean Pearson, Canada, UFC. And then sure enough, it's Sean the Punisher Pearson, who was like at the time, like in the UFC kicking ass.
Yeah.
But it just looked different because in class he had a beard. And of course, like I don't expect some UFC guy to be in Markham, Ontario, Canada. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, what? So yeah, it turns out I had been training with a UFC guy for like, and then I did that for a long time. Skip ahead, pandemic hits. I can't train anymore. Nothing to do. And my buddies, I was looking for something to do. This comic shop near me was doing a podcast. I had guested on that for a few times. I was like, I like it, but I don't like not being in control. And so I was like, fuck it. Why don't I just start my own,
Yeah.
And so then I reached out to a few guys at the gym. And then there was this one guy at the time, his name was Prince. He had always wanted to do something in like showbiz or whatever. I was like, all right, well, why don't we try this? We'll figure this out. And so you'll see, if you go to the Fight Insight podcast, look it up anywhere on YouTube. But the first few episodes, really bad. Like the cameras are grainy and everything's all a mess and there's no graphics. There's no nothing. Like you've got beautiful graphics all around here, right? We use the same program.
Yeah.
And then we're like, let's do it, right? Let's just try it. We got nothing to do. It's pandemic. And we figure, okay, we'll just do it, just me and you, and we'll find some guests or we'll do something, right? We'll just pick guys from our gym and we'll just have a fun time. And then some UFC people started saying, I'll be on your show. And we're like, what? Like, you sure about this? Right? Like,
they ain't got much to do. They're the same boat, right? Especially during the pandemic.
Right?
Yeah.
And so because before that I had been a fan of UFC fighters, so I was talking to some on Instagram and stuff like that. And so when we were kind of starting the show, I had reached out to a few of them going like, hey man, would you ever want to be on the show? And a few of them were like, yeah, okay. And so we started doing the show and we're like a few weeks in. And then Brian Bam Bam Barberena.
Yeah. Hey, shout out. He's about to fight.
He's
soon.
fighting next week. He's
weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. He's on a flight to England, I think tonight or maybe tomorrow morning.
Shout out. Yeah.
Shout out to that dude. I love him.
He's a fun fighter, man. Fun fighter.
Man, he is so kick ass. They just need to give him the right fights.
Yeah.
Right. Like, anyways, we can get into that later. But anyways, Brian Bam Bam Barberena, who had right around then had just beaten Sage Northcutt, and that was how he got on everyone's radar.
Shades is another dude too.
Yeah. So then Bam Bam, I had messaged him, and then Bam Bam, like a few months after, he messages me and goes, hey man, am I coming on this podcast or what? And I was like, oh, we're not very good, man. Like, just relax. I got to get a little bit better first. And he's like, no, screw it. He goes, I'll come on multiple times, like, just let's go, let's do it. And like, that was the thing to me that was like, holy shit, what a nice dude. What a great guy that he would say to do that. And then, so I had him on the next week, and then he's been on, I think, like 6-7 times since. Like, he's been a real friend of the podcast. He's guest hosted with me a few times and stuff like that. Great dude. And but there's certain guests that I've had that really inspired me to just keep going and keep driving. And so this week we're on episode 128, I think. and we have not missed a week. So since that time during the pandemic, we've gone straight. So we're just, into our third year kind of thing. Yeah. And it's been a fun time, man. We've had, like I was talking to you off air before we started, I've had guests from around the world of combat sports. So UFC fighters, Bellator fighters, ONE FC fighters, Muay Thai champions, BKFC champions, running the gamut. We have nutritionists, coaches, next week, we have legendary commentator TJ DeSantis, the guy that was the voice of Invicta for like a decade. Yeah, that dude is consummate professional. I will say I've recorded it already. I was nervous as hell, man. I got starstruck with that dude. Yeah, because of who he is. Because he's a broadcast professional, right? Like
he's somebody, right? Like that's like you're like, oh, I'm just like a minor. We're like in a minor league. Well, you're like AAA, I feel like, and I'm like A-ball.
Dude, I'm like I'm T-ball, maybe. Yeah. I mean, and then TJ comes on and he shows up like in his freaking professional booth, like, because he does a show on UFC Fight Pass called Extra Rounds, and so he shows up in like the pro setup and everything, and his mic sounds perfect, like everything's like amazing. I'm like, oh geez, like I'm just nervous and everything. I think my phone rang during the interview. I'm like, what a dump I am, but yeah, no, he was amazing, man. But yeah, so anyways, that's it. That's how I'm going, and that's where we're at.
You got a favorite guest that you guys have had?
I mean, I don't want to insult anybody, my favorite, I don't want to insult anyone because every guest is friggin'
it's great.
Like, amazing, and they bring whatever. But I will say, back in February, my wife and I were going to England for a trip. And before, like a few days before, maybe a month before, anyways, this guy starts messaging me randomly on Instagram, and he's like, hey man, I'm a friend of Bobby Green's, and I watch your show, and I know that he's like your favorite fighter of all time. He goes, I'm going to try to get him on the podcast for you. I was like, all right, man. Like I had tried to reach out to him before with no success. Bobby had said he only does interviews like very, very rarely. He only does like 2 or 3 interviews a year, blah, blah, blah. Right. And most of the time he gets paid for it. And I'm like, look, I can't pay you, man, but I wish you all the best. I love you. You know what I mean? Then this guy comes back to me and he's like, crap, can't do it. And he starts sending me like text messages of what appears to be a conversation between him and Bobby. But I'm like, is some guy trolling me? Like just to like mess me up,
Yeah, to mess with you, yeah.
And then 2 days before I fly to England, I wake up and my Instagram goes, Bobby Green has tagged you in a story. And I'm like, what? And I look at Bobby Green's story, and it's him calling me out on his story with my @Fight Insight podcast plastered across the screen. And it's just him driving in his car saying that he's heard from me and he wants to be on my show and whatever. I couldn't freaking believe it. Like,
oh man,
impossible, right? Like it's impossible that he would call me out like that and everything. And then so I go to my wife and I'm like, you won't believe what just happened. I'm like, who's my favorite fighter in the world, hon? And she goes, Bobby Green. And she doesn't know fighting from anything, but she knows Bobby Green's my favorite. And I show her the story, and then sure enough, like within a week he came on the show. Best interview I've ever had. Like I'm pretty, like, again, no disrespect to anyone, but incredible interview. The guy gave me so much time, open, real. Like I'm a Bobby Green fan. I swear to God, it's probably one of the best interviews I've ever seen him do with anybody, hands down, not being biased.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's your favorite fighter, so like, you know what I mean? Like, of course, like that's going to be, you know what I mean? Like that's what makes why Bobby Green your favorite fighter? Like that. I like Bobby's different dude. Now he's King Green, right? I guess now
he's just King.
Just King now, right?
Like Prince, man.
Yeah, and we'll get ready to see. He's fighting in 2 weeks.
He's fighting at Tony Ferguson at 290, 292, 291, whatever the next one is. 291.
291.
Yeah, the Gaethje
in Salt Lake. Nice fight for Bobby. He's fought everything.
That's a great fight for him, because I feel like he's going to mop the floor with Tony Ferguson.
Yeah. I hate to say it. I mean, Tony was a wild dude at a time, but and he's fought Tony's another guy who's fought just who's.
Yep.
But after that Justin Gaethje fight where Gaethje just, made his face like a meat platter. It just has not been great for Tony. So
there are certain
and I thought there was a move to 170 for Tony there for a second, and then that didn't happen, and now he's back at 155 and he's taking on your guy King.
Yeah.
So back to the original question. Sorry.
Yeah, and Bobby just kind of got ripped off with that stupid Jared Gordon fight, which
there's another guy, Jared Gordon's. I tweeted this after that fight. I was like, so Jared Gordon's just going to have all these weird, strange fights, huh?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with that fight, and I had a lot of problems with that it was called as it was, because I feel like they really ripped Bobby off on that.
Oh yeah, you weren't there. Bobby did too.
The problem with that is, and here's the backhanded problem with this, Bobby is too slick. The problem is that once he had that headbutt, the minute Jared fell to the ground, Bobby sniper, bam, just finishes him off with like one punch because he's so good, and that's what then caused the problem. Had he let Jared scramble a bit, blah, 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 time would pass, and then they would have said, oh, the headbutt's not that impactful on this win. Yeah. The problem is that Bobby just knocked the shit out of him right away, and that was it. But going back to why Bobby's my favorite fighter, watch his story on UFC Fight Pass and see his background story, right? See about how he came up, as someone in the foster system, losing his brother to gang violence, battling against all adversity to come out to where he has today. Watch his in-ring post-fight speeches where he talks about people, about saying that you can be the best that you can be. Don't let people take you down. All his positivity in his life that he spews. Look at his look. Goddamn dude has the coolest freaking look. You know what I mean? So styled and whatever. Because I really think this is my problem. A lot of fighters, they just don't care about their look. They don't care about having a style. But Bobby Green's got that goddamn style. He looks cool. And then his fighting style is second to none. Dude, anytime, like if I'm sparring in the gym, I'm trying to just go freaking bobbing head and, when a punch glances off, like, dude, he's just so crazy. Like, his skill is insane. And what people don't know, they look at him and think that he's a striker and that he's like a born boxer. Dude's background is wrestling. Like, he's a high school wrestler. He's not even a striker.
But
he just developed into this insane showman, crazy. So I'm so happy for him.
It's crazy about those wrestlers because you look at, it's like Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, like those guys. Like Michael Chandler's an all-American wrestler, and it's just like he got to the UFC and was like, I'm just gonna fight people. Like I don't
kill people.
I just kill or be killed. And that's he's one of my favorites, and it's just because he's just the way his style is too. And it's just like, man, like, why don't you, like, if you would just wrestle, Mike, you might win some of these wars that you're getting yourself into. I want to back up just a little bit. What got you into the jiu-jitsu and all that stuff, like the Filipino stuff? Like, what led you down that path to get into fighting?
Yeah, man, nothing really. Like, I was just an athlete all my life. I was a tennis and soccer player growing up, and come university time, you kind of stop playing competitive or whatnot,
University, that's college, right?
Oh, college, sorry, yeah.
I was, I'm a college grad myself, but I was just trying to make sure. So.
Yeah. So once you get kind of older, you stop playing. You're working jobs and stuff like that. You don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And then so when I ended up going to university, though, they had the martial arts classes, and just my whole life playing soccer and tennis, I had never had the time to invest and go into martial arts. So then that was the time that I could do it. And then once you start doing it, man, you get hooked. You get physically better. You get physically fit. You feel more confident. You have more self-esteem, et cetera, et cetera. And for the most part, like anybody that's been involved in sports, like you're then around people that kind of are like you, like people that aren't, just partying or drugs or alcohol or whatever. Yeah. Like you have people that care about their health and stuff like that. So it was kind of like you just form a camaraderie, like you form a bond with the people around. So that was it, man. Around that time, well, UFC was already around, but it was around the time that Bonner and Griffin had their fight. Like it
Yeah.
was around that time. That's how old I am. But it was around that time. So it was around the time that
2006,
started to hype up.
Was that 05, 06? That was
around
tough
there.
one, right? Tough one.
Yeah.
So
so that was it. It was just something to do, and it was a cool thing. And
ever fight like in the cage, like
no, man. So like because I started late, I did tournaments for knife fighting and for the Eskrima. But then when it got to like when I started actually training in MMA, mixed martial arts, or Muay Thai at a more regular level, by that time I was a little bit older. I think I was like in my mid to late 30s. And then by then, what, I was so happy to help coach people. Like I was a tennis coach as well. So I really enjoyed coaching. So I was happy to like be people's training partners, be their sparring partners, go through their fight camps with them and stuff like that. I never really felt like the desire to compete myself, because I guess my whole life I had competed. So I never had that drive. And then my coach at the gym would say to me like, hey dude, if we're going to find you a fight, it's going to be hard, because we got to find someone that's around your age that has 0 fights.
Yeah.
It's like, we can't put you in there against an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, no offense. It's just not right.
They did that to Rojas. You know what I mean? The UFC.
Yeah. If you're a pro, it's a little different. But so that was it. But so I never competed, but I, going through all the fight camps and go through the training and stuff like that with people. I love it, man. Love it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, like what makes, because to me, like I tell people all the time, and like when people like why I love like UFC and things like that are just like, MMA, why I love MMA. And I tell people it's because like you're a special breed of person to want to get in there. And it literally is this killed or be killed. It's the last gladiator thing. It's mano a mano. It's one of the, boxing, anything MMA, fighting. It's the last, gladiator thing, and it's mano a mano. And everything else, it's team oriented. But these people are going in there really to take break your bones and to do, if there's not a ref there, like me and my buddy were talking about it. If there's not a ref there, it's that person, you're dying. You know what I mean? Because they're gonna punch you down until you're almost dead. But there's a ref there to stop it or choke you out until you're dead. What makes so like that to me? I'm like it's a special breed of person. And you mentioned Bobby Green's story. Then you get into these, you talk to these fighters or you listen to their stories. Just like, man, like it's just incredible. Their stories and how they overcome things and. It's just, it's that killed or be killed. It's special type of people. I say all the time to want to be a fighter, and you have to have something. And I'm not, don't sign me up for it, but I'll sign myself up to talk about it and watch it every day. But, I'm not, I have no desire, I don't think, to ever get into the ring. I did one time, 2 summers ago, I did like an in-ring announcing for a local boxing event here. And
Nice.
I loved that. So I was like, yes, I'm there for that type of stuff. I'll be the Bruce Buffer of the group, but I don't want to, I have no desire to go get punched in the face. So what drew you to that?
I don't know, man. I guess it was something that, as a kid, you grow up, you're watching martial arts movies and you're watching Rocky and you're watching stuff like that. And then I guess for me, being a competitive person by nature, but only playing soccer and tennis, like there was no real aggression. You know what I mean? Like I got into fights in soccer and got kicked off the field like multiple times. But I don't know. I guess it was just a different thing, like it's really just a different thing. I don't know that when I started, it was because I wanted to get punched in the face per se. I got into it because I like the discipline of it. I like the challenge of it and the discipline and the self-confidence that you feel as a result of your progression through it. You know what I mean? It was something that just made you feel a lot different than, okay, I'm a great basketball player, I'm a great football player. Like, okay, that's cool. And you're proud of yourself, but I don't know, the martial arts just gives you a sense of self-confidence. You know what I mean? Like just when you're walking around, you just feel a little bit more self-confident. It's not that you think, oh, I can beat people up, but it's just that I feel confident in myself that I'd be able to protect myself. It's a weird feeling, but I feel like a lot of martial artists would know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I get it. It's that feeling like if somebody did ever come at me, I feel pretty good about handling it type thing.
Yeah. And like, and then we know through watching UFC and stuff, like you see some little dorky, nerdy guys.
Right.
You're like, oh, that guy can kill half the planet.
Right.
And you're like, so you know what I mean? Like when you realize that when you're watching UFC and you see these people and you're like, oh, like, maybe I shouldn't be as confident as I think I am. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what people's skills are around the world or something like that when you're just walking around. Again, it's not really about that, but I don't know. It's a good benefit. But I think it's just the feeling, it's the feeling of how you are progressing and how you're developing. And then I think it's just the camaraderie that you build. If you're at the right gym, if you're at the right place with the right people, it's the camaraderie that really.
Yeah. And you hear fighters talk about that. Like, they love their gym. We have a local gym here and I've interviewed a couple guys, from that gym. One's a professional, one's about to turn professional. He holds 2 amateur belts here in Missouri. Nice. And you just, talking to them and you just see them, they train, they eat together. It's that family, that brotherhood, and from being in my military being in the military, like I 100% understand that.
Yeah, there you go.
Because like you're just in it together all the time. You kind of in the suck together a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're pushing each other to, to greatness. So I definitely understand that camaraderie. Like there is a team, like why it's mano a mano in the cage. There is a whole team aspect of it, and it's the team effort to when you win and when you lose, and those things.
Think about it. Like you're training, even for myself, not training professional or anything like that, but I'd be in the gym like 7-8 hours a week, right? Like you're in the gym probably 5-6 days a week. You're there all the time. Imagine a pro fighter. They're probably in there 7 days a week, training hours and hours upon thing. How many times do they fight in a year? Twice?
Yeah, lucky for twice.
You could be in the cage literally 10 minutes a year by yourself fighting. But, 52 weeks of the year, 7 days a week, you're with your team that whole time. So like, imagine like that's truly the bigger component to it is being in that gym, being with your training partners, being with your family there, right?
Yeah, it really could be less than 10 minutes, right? Like, I mean, quick knockout, if
you're lucky.
Fight, if one fight and then, maybe you don't get, especially I feel like once you get to that top echelon, maybe you're waiting for a title fight or something like that. Yeah. Like, we haven't seen Colby Covington in over a year. Like, where's he at? He's got to come out from the witness protection. So that's what I always tell people.
Dude, I love that dude. I love Colby Covington. I'm a huge Colby fan, man.
Get out
I love
of here.
That dude. Yeah. I love what he does. I love his.
You love the character. I
love the character. He's a great fighter too. Like I think he's gonna mop the floor with Leon Edwards.
Wow.
I don't think Leon's gonna stand a chance.
Really?
I don't think so. Man.
I like Leon. I think too. I think it's a tough fight for Leon. And again, I like Leon's story. Very, poor underground. And even just they did Leon so dirty until they finally gave him the Usman fight. So I kind of root for Leon in that, kind of the guy versus the machine. And
I mean, he looked hella amazing in the rematch too.
Yes.
Like that's the thing that worries me as a Colby fan is how good Leon looked in that second fight.
Yeah.
I was like, oh damn,
Yeah.
But
he just did Kamaru Usman, you know what I mean? Like, and really Usman was, the first fight, the second fight, I guess, or, was winning that fight, from top to bottom until, 30 seconds left in the fight. And then, the kick around the world. But yeah, I mean, Colby's just, you got to put aside everything for Colby and just like put everything, he's playing. That's a character. And I'm a huge wrestling fan, like, WWE, WWE. So I get like heels and like, and there's some of that in the UFC. And Colby's took this and he's made it this and that. But, he's still in the way. I say he's in the witness protection program because nobody knows where he's ever at. He just appears once in a while and then goes back to hiding.
I'll tell you, man. From everything that I hear about him, from the people that I interview on my show, they say he is the best dude in real life.
The Kobe
gym.
character, the person,
Yeah.
is not Kobe character, the character.
Yeah.
Kayfabe, right? As we call in the wrestling business, right?
Yeah. So like, we had on ONE FC fighter, oh my God, Little Savage, Elise Anderson. She's a ONE FC atomweight. She trains with him out at, I think it was MMA Masters. And she said behind the scenes, she goes, that dude, hell of a dude, always around, playing with people's kids and blah, blah, blah. So like, it's very polarizing, I think, what he's doing in terms of like the image that he portrays. Plus you get the political issues and stuff like that. So I think that really irks people too, or like it really helps him get under people's skin. But I don't know. I just respect the dude for what he's doing. I do like his fight style. I like him. Let me ask you, how are you feeling on Juliana Pena?
So you know what? I actually like Juliana Pena more than I like it's two heels, right? So I shouldn't like Juliana, but I think because I was a fan of her anyway, and I get like I get her heelish is not as bad as like it's different heelish to me. Her trying to get heat than it is Kobe. I think sometimes Kobe gets a little too personal, especially when it was him and Jorge and the family and the kids. Like I feel like I'm kind of in the the adage of you don't bring like people's kids into it, you don't bring in their religion into it. But outside of that, it's fair game. It's the fight game, right?
But the difference is though is that Juliana is definitely and I love Juliana and I'm all for Juliana too.
Yeah.
But I find that the internet is almost 100% against
they all hate
Juliana.
Her. Yeah. They
massive. Dude, do you know I would say that half my time online is defending Juliana Pena.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you something. She's got the look, first of all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's not pretend she doesn't have the look.
Yeah.
But
they don't call her the vixen for a reason. They call her the villainous vixen for a reason.
She's putting women's bantamweight on the map.
Yep.
You lose Amanda Nunes. Nobody gives a crap about that division for the most part. I apologize.
Did anybody really even before that? Like Amanda wasn't like.
No, I know, but at least she was the GOAT.
Yeah,
right.
At
least it was, because in truth, it's like Valentina, right? Valentina really doesn't have a great personality, really doesn't kill it on the mic or anything like that. But you're watching Valentina because you're like, well, she's one of the greatest athletes in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
But at least, because like, if Juliana wasn't there, would anybody be talking about women's bantamweight?
No.
No offense. And I love Raquel Pennington. Raquel was on our show. She was my first female guest ever.
Awesome.
I love her.
Do they do? We'll talk.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead first. Yeah, I'm with you. I was going to ask you, do they do? So Pena's, you're right. And I think people are shitting on Pena a little bit because of the retirement Nunez fight. And she's just like, that second fight was a lot closer than it was. And we're all just like, Julie, we all watched that fight. It wasn't close at all, really, to me. I was like, were we watching the same fight? And
okay,
I love
hold on. It wasn't close, but I would compare it to what happened yesterday with Ashley Evans Smith. Ashley Evans Smith goes out there. Did you watch the fight? Ashley Evans Smith fight?
Which I don't think so.
She was on the early prelims.
I missed the prelims. I was trying to think of which fight. I caught like the last three fights. The JDM fight, which was close, and the Holly Holm fight. Like I caught the last kind of three four fights there.
So Ashley Evans Smith, you know who she is, right?
Yeah.
Rebel Girl? Okay.
Yeah.
She's been on our show as well. I'm a huge fan of hers. Her podcast. Look, to your viewers, right? When the week starts, you watch the Bodkins show. That's first, 100%. You catch up on all the Bodkins episodes. Secondly, you watch Fight and Sight podcast. Okay, will be your second favorite show. No problem. I'm happy with that. Third, go watch the Sex and Violence podcast with Ashley Evans Smith. It's crazy, dude. That's like Howard Stern meets MMA. It's very cool.
I'm gonna have to write that down. I'm gonna have to check it out.
You should write it right below where it says Fight and Sight podcast on your list.
I got you, man.
All right. So
Sex and Violence, you said?
Sex and Violence, yeah. So she goes out there and she had neck surgery over 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. Comes back and fights Aylin Perez last night, who's the girl that twerks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This Aylin Perez goes out and beats the sugar out of Ashley Evans Smith. Like, mauls her to death.
Shit.
I thought she was gonna get get the TKO in the first round because she is on top of her, just wailing. Are you allowed to swear on this show?
Bro, I drop the F-bomb every
week. Good. So beating the shit out of Ashley Evans Smith, right? And it hurts me to watch this because I know her and I like her. She somehow powers through, makes it to the end of the first round. Second round comes out, worse than the first. I mean, getting smashed, but will not give up. Third round, smashed again, does not give up, makes it to the decision. Dude, same as Juliana, like to survive the 5 rounds with Nunes, and for Ashley Evans Smith to survive, I have almost even more respect because
I had respect.
You could have taken the easy out a million times in that fight. You were getting slaughtered. You could easily just fall to the ground, turtle up, and let the ref call it.
And I think, like, when we were watching that fight, that's what everybody was saying, right? Like, everybody was kind of saying, like, Juliana's tough. Like, she's just losing. Yeah. She's just getting beat down.
Yeah.
And she just, it's like that old South Park meme where I ain't hear no bell, like Chris Matondo from when he fought Sugar O'Malley, it's very similar, right? Like, those type of, but like, so for Juliana to say that fight was closer than what it was, is I'm like, Juliana, like, you're being a little delusional, but I get it. And then just like the tweet after Amanda retires, right? And she's just like, boom, I'm just going. I think
but she's gotta set the stage. She's got to get people talking.
No, I agree. So like, I think my point was like, I think that's why people don't like her. But I understand, like, we're coming from like, hey, we understand. First of all, she's trying to get that fight again because it's going to be a lot of money, especially now if Amanda retires. Okay, how can I get her to come back? How can I get her to come back? I got to promote myself. That's the thing, is Juliana is a great promoter. She's sitting down with the best Ric Flair all the time and learn to talk, learn to cut a promo. And and that's one of the things that fighters, really good fighters, especially the guys and gals who are trying to make money, you got to be able to cut a promo. You got to be good in the ring, and then you got to be able to cut a promo. Look at Khabib. Like, Khabib could barely speak English, but once he started cutting promos, especially on Conor and things like that, calling him chicken and this and that, guess what? Yeah. He learned English just to cut promos, and it built him up. Built his wallet up, and built the biggest fight in UFC history in Conor versus Khabib, right? So
if you're Russian, you just have to learn the word smesh and send me location. Yeah. Right? Like you just need those 4 words.
Right.
And you can kill it on the mic.
Yeah.
I will say, you say that, right? Being able to cut the promo and stuff. My one problem with ONE FC and ONE FC trying to come over into the Western market. I know we're going all over the place.
Yeah.
But just on a quick tangent, ONE FC trying to break into the market. These freaking idiots are having cards full of people that don't speak English.
Yeah.
I'm like, can you dummies at least put on your Amazon Prime time cards? Can you put people that speak English so that no matter who wins the fight, they can speak English and they can pump up the crowd? Like, that's a real problem. Stamp Fairtex, who is like probably, in my opinion, probably the greatest female fighter alive right now, like just in terms of like her skill and just her style and everything she does. If you don't know who Stamp Fairtex is, go Google it. She speaks English now. Suddenly, this Thai girl, like in her last fight, suddenly she starts busting out English, and now she can speak. And I had a ONE FC Muay Thai fighter on my show, and I saw her post a picture with Stamp Fairtex, and I'm like, hey, does Stamp Fairtex speak English now? And she's like, yep, she just learned. So like, it's very important,
Charles Oliveira, right? Prime example. Everybody loves Charles. Like, you get on Twitter, everybody loves Charles. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and now if he speaks English, people are gonna love him. Even like, they already love him. And
don't you think it's weird that like the UFC themselves doesn't say like, hey, dude, we're going to send you an English teacher, like, on us. Don't worry. Yeah. We're going to send you a tutor, and we'll just, twice a week. It's on us.
Yeah. Yeah, it should, right? Like, and just to promote themselves. Yeah. Because I think the translator gets caught in
it gets caught in the way. My wife speaks Korean.
Uh-huh.
And oftentimes we'll be watching fights where a Korean fighter wins and then they do their speech and then the translator's there in the ring. My wife says the translation is wrong like 50% of the time.
Yeah, I believe it.
But she's like, that's not even what the dude said.
Yeah.
And oftentimes she'll say what the fighter said is more charismatic.
Passion. Yeah. Well,
like it's a little bit more aggressive or it's a little bit more spicy.
Yeah.
But the translator is doing something probably that the management has said, okay, make sure that he says something like this.
Yeah. Well, even then, even if it's, I think too, because like if you feel that from the emotion, right? We're talking about a guy or girl who just fought, and they got this emotion and they're still, the adrenaline's pumping. And then they say all this stuff and then they go to get to the translator and he pretty much just, it's like reading off an index card. He said, this was a great fight. The Warriors won. Thank you to Marshall Inu Rogan. Yes. Please buy their Bitcoin. Yes, right. Like just real. He did not say that, you bastards. Yes, just like real stale, and then it's just like, well, that was a huge letdown. So I wanted to ask you to back up. We are kind of all over the place, but it's all good. What do you think they do with that bantamweight division? Because as we saw last night, now Holly Holm, who was ranked number 2 or 3, she got caught and got lost and lost. And so do you do Raquel Pennington and Juliana and call it good?
So Raquel Juliana is booked, right? Like, no, isn't that booked?
I haven't seen it. I don't think so. Or did you see? Are you
I don't know, whatever. Who cares? Look. They booked that fight because that's a classic throwback to the tough season that they were on. They were on tough season 6 or 7 together, right? Like, so that's where we first met both of them. It's awesome. It's kismet that they meet, you know what I mean? All these years later, and now they're fighting. Yeah. So you do that no matter what. 100% you do that fight. All I know is that Juliana better freaking win. And again, I love Raquel, and my heart is with Raquel on that fight. But the move that the UFC needs to happen is Juliana wins that fight and she calls out Ronda Rousey. That makes everything happen. You know what I mean?
Juliana hasn't beaten a single UFC fighter on the roster.
Well, that's, we don't need those kind of stats, Bodkins. Like you said, Colby hasn't fought in years.
He hasn't either. He hasn't fought in years. Hasn't fought a ranked fighter.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, you look at Leon Edwards' resume, it's not that impressive. Yes, he was on a 500 fight win streak, but when you go down, a bunch of those guys don't even have a Wikipedia entry. So,
I get you. It's funny, anybody can pull this. I just tell people all the time, stats don't, At one time, those people were in the UFC, so it's okay to.
Some guy the other day, who's he talking about online? I like most of my time online is getting mad at people that are so stupid. I
feel that.
People that are idiots. Actually, I was watching one of your shows and you were talking about how you're not afraid to like go after people when they're stupid, right?
I'm not.
These people are such idiots and they disrespect fighters and they, you know what I mean? Like in all the dumb shit they say. I don't mind you disrespect them, you give them some shit, but when it's just stupidity, right? That's where I have a bit of a problem. Like the Juliana stuff, when people say stuff about Juliana,
I bet you want to say that to their face. That's
but not only that, but I'm like, hey, you realize that Juliana is doing this because it at least drives some interest,
money.
Like when was the last time you posted about Holly Holm? You know what I mean? Like, no offense. So someone posted the other day talking about stats. They're like, this fucking guy. Look at the 5 of the guys that he beat has a total combined record of like 10-20 or something, you know what I mean? Like saying that this guy's fought cans. But then I was just like, oh, that's a curious thing. So then I went and I Googled it. And sure enough, this idiot had left out the last 2 guys that he had fought who had a combined record of like 30-10. And I'm like, well, if you add all the people, you idiot, you've handpicked it. So that
you favor it into your
So don't give me any of that crap about Juliana not fighting. Actually,
I'm just messing with you. I told you I love
problem. It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Part of that
this is the problem of that division.
Yeah. Well, it's the division. She sat out waiting for a fight, and then she got hurt. We know, you know what I mean. Like it's just certain things. Like it happens, right? Like so, it's
and
just
the thing is too is like sometimes we blame the people for sitting out, waiting for that title shot because you're like, you should be active, blah, blah, blah. But then you look at what happened with Joanne Calderwood for her flyweight title shot. She should have had one. And then instead she ended up taking a fight against someone. I don't know, Macy Barber or someone. I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
And then loses.
Yeah.
And then you just lost your title shot. And for some of these fighters, you'll never get a title shot. That title shot would have got you money, would have got you fame, got you followers.
Get it. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't feel too bad about him. Yeah.
The big news this past week, and then I want to talk a little bit some fight stuff before we get you out of here. Was the not Yuri Prohaska, but Jamal Hill tore his, blew out his Achilles. During the UFC function basketball game, out of all things, put on by DC. What do they do with this light heavyweight title? At one point in time, that title, if you were the light heavyweight title, it was like you were the face of the UFC. Was like the most prestigious title almost. Light heavyweight. And now you look at it, it's like cursed since John Jones decided he was going to relinquish it, and now nobody can have it. It seems like. I mean, we went. I love Jan Blachowicz, great guy. His last fights have not been outstanding. We had Glover's that he lost it to Jamal, or he lost it, and then to Yuri, and that was a fun fight. Yuri gets hurt, and then Jamal gets it, and now he's hurt. What do we do with this? Do we wait on Yuri to come back and fight?
No. You got to get some fights in here. But when you look at the rankings, I'm just pulling it up as you're talking, so that's why my eyes are looking.
No, you're good.
I don't know, man. You got Yuri, you got Magomed Ankalaev. I don't know. I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. You got Jan Blachowicz, fine. You got Alexander Rakic, right?
Rakic is hurt. He's supposed to be coming back. He tore his ACL against Jan Blachowicz.
Johnny Walker. That's incredible to me that he's ranked number 5. No offense. Nikita Krylov. I do love that dude. Nikita Krylov. I really, really like him, but I don't know. I don't see him as a champion. Anthony Smith hanging around at number 7. That guy hasn't won a fight. He hasn't even won a BJJ fight in years. I don't know what's going on with that dude. Then you got Volkan Ozdemir. No way.
It's real thin.
You got Paul Craig. Do you want to see Paul Craig for 5 rounds pull guard?
Paul Craig's dropping down to middleweight. His next fight's at middleweight.
He's dropping down, that's for sure. He's dropping down to pull guard.
Right.
I got no time for this guy.
Like that last fight, I don't remember who it was, but he just laying there, like, come on, fight me. And the guy's like, why, Paul, why would I do that? We all know. Yeah. We all know that's what you want me to do. I'm not going to do that.
No, then now we're up to number 10. You got Ryan Spann, Azamat, Dominic Reyes, Khalil Roundtree, who's awesome. I love Khalil.
I like Roundtree.
Yeah, dude, this division, I don't know. It's kind of strange.
So in 2 weeks, we got Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira, the former middleweight champ.
Yeah.
Do you do that and say that's the title fight, or does the winner fight Yuri? They said Yuri's getting close to coming back.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You got to do something. You got to figure it out. You got to figure out who's gonna. I don't know who's lined up for fights, so it's kind of hard. But I mean, you can't go out of the top 5.
No.
You can't go out of the top 5 for.
None of those guys really have. Like I said, Jan Blachowicz and Alex are about to fight in 2 weeks at 291.
Yeah, so it's a tough one, man. It's got to be Yuri. So I guess it's Magomed Ankalaev.
Yeah, his last fight was December. Remember, him and Jan Blachowicz went to a draw.
Yeah, no, I probably slept through that. No,
I did. I woke up and I thought Jan won because he won the first 2 rounds, and then I woke up when they were making the announcement and it was a draw. I said, "What the hell happened?" And then I was like, "I don't really even care." The next day, and I fell back asleep.
Some of the divisions are quite a bit weaker right now, right? But that's what happens. It goes like that, ebbs and flows, and you need some stars and stuff like that. Because
right now, the 135. 170, 155 in men's is probably,
right.
The 135, the bantamweights are just that, man. It's a killer's 1 through 10 on there. Let me ask you this before we're close to the hour mark here.
No worries, my friend.
What do you have a favorite fight that you you just let's just say you're like, man, I'm bored.
Yeah.
I need this. I just want to watch this fight. I'm gonna throw it on and
so if you have UFC Fight Pass, that's the best way to do it, right? Because you can get whatever fights. What I'll say is I can put on any Barboza fight or any Bobby Green fight. Barboza, Bobby Green, those fights are going to be bangers, right?
Yeah.
Look for ones where either of those two guys win specifically.
Yeah.
Because then you know that it's a flashy show. Best fights for me that get my hair standing on end. I'm going to give you some terrible ones, but for some reason, these just hit home for me. Okay. One, most recently would be Bobby Green versus Fiziev.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I love Fiziev. He's
my God. I love that dude. He's future champ for sure. So Fiziev versus Bobby Green, even though my man Bobby Green lost, that fight was insane. I love that fight. That's probably one of my favorites of recent memory. But then I'm going to go, this is going to be crazy, Miesha Tate versus Holly Holm. When Miesha Tate won the title.
Oh, yeah.
I can watch that fight a million times. I don't know what it is. It's the commentary. It's the crowd. It's the buzz.
I think fights just make good, like crowds make
just,
good, like, yeah.
Yeah, it was just an amazing fight. The way that Miesha wins that title at the end in the 5th round when it was like do or die and that she chokes her out unconscious. It was a spoiler alert for those, but beautiful fight, man. So watch that fight. And that's a women's fight. So I'm putting that on the list. So, don't come at me for that. But the next one I would say for sure is Michael Bisping versus Anderson Silva. That fight, insane. I mean, that's the one where, do you remember that fight?
Yeah.
Bisping gets knocked out at the bell in
the
2nd or 3rd round.
Yeah.
And Anderson's on the cage celebrating and they're like, you got to get down. The fight.
Yeah, you got to get down
after the bell. And then it happens and Bisping, I mean, that fight was insane. So that the Bisping Anderson fight and then the Miesha Tate Holly Holm fight for me are two fights that I can watch a million times over. And for some reason the hair stands on end. It's just electric. That feel of those fights is crazy. So yeah, those are my two favorites.
All right.
Throwbacks.
You want to hear mine?
Yeah, of course.
Man, Chandler and Gaethje.
It would have been funny. It would have been funny if I said no. Next question.
Yeah, well, I'd be like, all right. Gaethje and Chandler. That one was, I think a lot of it was the crowd too. The Masvidal Usman too, right? There was the first card that after the pandemic we had in Jacksonville when we had fans, and it was just like it's like we went so many fights and cards right without fans, you almost forgot. And you're just like the crowd and just made it like that. Thinking about it gives me the goosebumps in my hair.
Yeah, man.
Because like that crowd and that they were cheering for Jorge, right? Like they're chanting his name. He's doing his cocky little thing, and then just clean punch, and you see the water and the sweat off of of Masvidal's hair and head, and it's just. So I think that had a lot to do with that one. Older one, just maybe it's hard. Robbie Lawler, the McDonald fight, like that's just what I mean. Like that's to me one of the classic. Anderson Silva, and
that I'm Canadian. That's like a day of mourning for us. So we're not very happy with that. Yeah.
So those, those two, that was probably one of the fights. So I started I was kind of like a casual, and then like that one really kind of dug into me. Also, Anderson Silva, man, I can't even think. It was like when he did the front kick and just the dude just like,
Vitor Belfort.
Yeah. That one. Anytime Nick Diaz, I love the Diaz brothers too. Anytime Nick is, Nick and Nate is our fight, and I just absolutely get behind the Diaz brothers just because they're down, man. I love the way they fight. I love Nick's last little hurrah there in the UFC, and we'll see. Now he's going to get paid to do this Jake Paul fight, and maybe he'll come back and fight again. So but yeah, those are probably some of my favorites off the top of my head. But
yeah, man, there's never a night of bad fights, man. Yesterday's card was being like joked about how horrible that card was, right? From top to bottom, people are like, shitty card, blah blah blah, skip it. And then that whole night from the early prelims to the end was fire. That card was awesome.
And
that's what happens.
Yeah, it happens like that. Like
These are pro fighters, man. These are pro
like
fighters.
the last the Vancouver card, right? I don't 289, I think.
Yeah.
That card was like, we're like, you looked on paper, right? Like, meh, this card is not pay-per-view. Like, do I really want to spend $80 to buy it? But then you watch it and you're like, shit, man. Like this card delivered. Like this card delivered. Like,
I'm glad I took the time to stream it.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, this card is awesome. I'm going to ask you real quick. The Gaethje and Poirier fights in 2 weeks for the BMF. You don't even need a BMF title to want to watch that watch that fight. Like, they're just saying it because like they got to promote something, right? But
it's so stupid the way they think that they always need a title fight on every numbered pay-per-view. But sure, whatever. But then again, it's so stupid. You couldn't figure out how to get some guy to put their title on the line for this card, right? Like,
well, and you don't even need a title for Gaethje. Sign me up, like as the kids say, inject that into my veins. Gaethje and Poirier too. If you missed the first one, man, it was. A dynamite fight. Who do you like in that? Who do you like in that one?
Flip a coin on that one because both guys are going to come to kill it. But I'll put it on Dustin Poirier. If I have to bet on it, I'm going to go for Poirier. But in truth, that I will not be putting a penny on that fight because that is totally a flip 'em.
Yeah, that's just get the popcorn ready fight. Yeah,
yeah,
you just sit. You're just in the eating the popcorn
Just pray to God that they stay healthy. Going into this fight camp, that there's no injuries or anything like that. We just want them at their prime best. To see these two guys murder the hell out of each other.
I'm going to ask you last question before we get you out of here. Yeah. Conor McGregor ever fight? You can't have a UFC show or a UFC talk without the biggest name. Conor ever fight again? I don't think he's fighting Mike Chandler.
No, I've been saying it on my podcast for forever because I was like, this idiot's not in the USADA pool, so we know that he can't fight, and there's no way that no matter what Dana White says, there's no way they're going to circumvent the rules to allow him to fight like what they did with Brock Lesnar, right? There's no way. It's bullshit if they do, and it's just too much favoritism shown if that's what they did. I feel really bad for Michael Chandler because his red panty night is gone in the wind. It's gone. I don't think. If I had to put money on it, I don't think McGregor ever fights again. I think this dude is roided up to death. He's
roided out.
He's beating women. Beating women, throwing them off yachts, having sexual relations in locker rooms. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Whether any of these things are true or not, shit's going on, man. This dude has the wrong people around him. He's got problems. I blame this all on the UFC though. The day he signed on the contract to say he's going to coach tough, you had to go, and you're in the USADA testing pool. Like, it's so bullshit.
Yeah, they should have done him right then and there.
Yeah, it's so stupid. How could you possibly sign him?
But Conor was smart. Conor on his end is smart, right? If he's roided out and coked out, which I think we both agree, he's smart, right? Like
allegedly, I don't need to be sued. Allegedly,
allegedly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Dana or Conor's watching this, but
they will.
Allegedly, right? Allegedly, I think he is. I mean, I think he could be whatever, and don't sue me, but I don't think Conor's going to get much money from me anyway, so it's all right. Where I was, so like I got to keep my name relevant. How can I do that? Okay, I'm going to go on ESPN. I'm going to put the biggest brand. UFC got what they wanted, right? Like Tough is kind of really the last like 4 seasons or so, right? And maybe even before that, maybe like the last.
No, it's far more than 4 seasons of poor Tough. And I feel really bad because I've had plenty of fighters off the Tough show come on my show.
Yeah,
specifically the season with Juliana and Amanda. I think
that was last season, right?
Yeah, the last season. I think I had 4 or 5 of the girls from that show. Yeah. Each one of them told me how great everything was, but the show shows nothing. So there's something going on with the editing and the filming where they don't really want to show you what's going on.
They've been doing this for like 30 years, almost, or 20 seasons or 30 seasons. They've never changed the format. But
they changed what they show. That's the problem. They used to show a lot of the happenings in the home.
Yeah. Now they cut that out.
They cut that all out. And apparently the reason is because when you film reality TV, you create villains, and because you're editing things, so you create people who look way worse than they are. And apparently, some girls got really hammered, social media, something like that. Something happened where then the show has decided, okay, we're going to step back from being too dramatic here, and we're going to do the tournament. But then the show doesn't make sense, right? Like then the show loses the whole point of it.
And if you don't do that, show the drama a little bit, then you're not really doing the fighters justice. As like people attaching them. Like I don't watch it live. Like I probably watch it the next day. I fast forward. Like I just want to watch the fight. Really, yeah.
Well, that's the problem though, because it's gotten stale, and because they're not doing any drama. There's no point to watch it.
Yeah, I watch the fight, and I'll watch like the interaction of the coaching and stuff. Mike Chandler, man. Like that guy is going to retire and become a coach. He's so good on that show as far as coaching. And ESPN wanted to get, they got both with it. Connor needed to keep his name relevant. ESPN's like, well, we need the toughest kind of stinking, or we'll get the biggest name we can get. People are going to tune in. But then Connor's not even really around. They don't really. I'd like to see. They should have done more of him and Mike's interaction a little bit more. But Connor's he just seems like he's coked out and roided out, and poor Mike Chandler isn't going to get his red panty night like you said. And unfortunately, hopefully he gets a lot. Hopefully he still gets. Hopefully the UFC helps him out and pays him quite a bit, because now he sat out a whole year and not getting any fights when he should have been fighting. Now he could have been fighting our guy Faziz or somebody. Yeah,
and again, because we don't want to get in trouble with people. If you don't understand what red panty night means, it's not that Bodkins and I are sexual deviants, although not that we're going to admit, but it's a thing that Connor has said, saying that when you fight Connor, it's a red panty night because you're going to get paid billions of dollars, right? So that's just to, again, allegedly, and Bodkins and I are not creeps, Amen to that. Can I say one quick thing that's very funny and apropos, I guess, to the show? Yeah. We're talking about tough. We're talking about how I had those fighters on. Breaking news, Bodkins, that your fans will want to know for their second favorite podcast, which is the Fight Insight podcast show. Caitlin Katniss Neal, who was on that last season, she was the I'll say the good-looking girl, tall, made it to the semis, I think. She was on my show. She then went off and fought in PFL now.
Yeah.
Message me as you and I are talking about tough, saying that she's coming on my show next week.
Nice. There we go.
Before her PFL fight at Madison Square Garden. So breaking news, broke it here first on your show, Bodkins.
Hey, appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Check that out on the Fight Insight podcast. Timmy, go ahead and tell the people where we can catch you at, and Twitter handle and all that.
Yeah. Go find me everywhere at Fight Insight Podcast. So I'm most active on Instagram at Fight Insight Podcast. I just put up a fire meme about Israel Adesanya getting some diversity and inclusion training. Go find that. So I'm on at Fight Insight Podcast on Instagram. I think I'm the same at Fight Insight Pod, maybe on Twitter. I'm a little bit active there. TikTok, I'm very poor on that. So don't even look at that, because you'll just find it embarrassing for me. Aside from that, I think that's really it. You can find my podcast everywhere. Just search Fight Insight Podcast, SIGHT, Fight Insight Podcast. YouTube is the best. Same as you, I guess, right? YouTube, we love the YouTube views. Spotify, of course, it's an audio and video podcast on Spotify now. And then you can find it everywhere else you get podcasts. Just search it. I don't know. I'm on a bunch of platforms. I don't even know what the hell they are. But I put it out into the universe. I'm on the Rageworks Podcast Network. I'm on this network, of course, which is with you, my friend. I'm on the Let's Talk Sports Network. I'm with these guys as well. And I just joined up recently with Let's Talk Sports, and they're putting a bunch of my shows. So they're going into the deep back catalogs. Like I said, I've got like 128 episodes. So come find us. Please, if you come and you follow me, let me know that you found me from here, so that I can send Bodkins some royalty checks.
Man, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, look, this has been another great episode of the Bodkins Show. For Timmy B, I'm Bodkins. This has been a pleasure. I'll be back tomorrow night. Let's Talk Sports Show right here on the Let's Talk Sports Network and the Bodkins channel. You guys know 8 o'clock Central Time Zone, 9 Eastern. We'll have Jim and Jonathan on. We're going to talk a little Wimbledon. We're going to talk a little baseball, a little wrestling. You guys know the deal on our Monday night show. We'll see you then. Appreciate you, Timmy. Timmy, it's been a pleasure. Check
Yeah,
out his podcast. We're going to get out of here, folks. Have a good rest of the night, and we'll catch you tomorrow night. I'm going to hit that outro, baby.